Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So I'm guessing that in my mind, somewhere down the road, there might be the thinking that many have after the Suicide Squad game Quiet or Silent Delay, that perhaps simplicity might be the way to go in a lot of things. Game development is very complex. A lot of things have happened in the past few years. And even with the new and improved video game quality that we're getting across the board, it appears that the cost of that is actually very high. A lot of gamers are not in a position right now to continue to wait 8 to 10 years for video games. Now, the reason I'm making this video is because we're going to analyze for a very short little bit how long it took Rocksteady to drop 3 of their most iconic games and how long it's actually taken them to get to the point where they are, either in the development or in the release and publication of the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game. All right, so what we're looking at here is their release of Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Knight. When Rocksteady first dropped Arkham Asylum, there's no one in the gaming scene that could have said that that game was not iconic. Even if you didn't play it as your first Arkham game, you can still go back and play it and see glimpses of greatness within that game. Before then, a lot of the other games out there were quite trash. I mean, if you go back and play some of the older games compared to the Arkham games, you're going to realize that many of those games just did not have that quality. Now, please permit me to use the word trash in a loose term, in sense of they just were not on the same level. That's basically what I mean. I'm not saying all these other video games that were superhero games were quite junky. I'm just saying Arkham Asylum really took things to the next level. Arkham City was on another level from Arkham Asylum, seeing Rocksteady improve from the work that they had done in the past. And so this was actually pretty cool. And then from Arkham City, it appeared that Rocksteady probably needed a little bit more time, or Warner Brothers had gone ahead to sanction another project, and Warner Brothers Games Montreal went ahead and made Arkham Origins, which was basically kind of a reverse engineered version of Arkham City. Even one of the former creative directors at the time at Warner Brothers Games Montreal in an interview said, when they actually went ahead and said, hey, you guys can go ahead and start working on your own game, that they basically reached out to Rocksteady, and Rocksteady gave them a bunch of resources and assets, and this is what they used to build their game. So ideally, Rocksteady kind of had a hand in building all of the Arkham games. I mean, I wish I can find that interview for you, and I'll do a little bit of research to put the link in the comment section if I can trace it down so that you guys can see how much of a juggernaut Rocksteady was in making these superhero games. Fast forward to today, we're in 2022, and it appears that video games are taking longer and longer, even for a studio as prolific as Rocksteady, to make. What has changed? What is going on? I think what's going on is very interesting, and we'll even look and say, how about Warner Brothers Games Montreal? What is going on? Why has it been that since their video game Arkham Origins, they have not released any other game? In my opinion, I have a few things that I could kind of pinpoint to say these may be the things that are causing pains, or these may be the things that may be causing obstacles to the game development. First of all, we have to acknowledge that different projects were actually delayed or in a sense canceled that were actually put forward for Warner Brothers. The leadership, the management, and even the financial issues within the parent companies that own Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment have been kind of messy in a sense to provide anything that's coherent for a lot of their video game IPs. And so I think what we're seeing in this case of Warner Brothers is a difference in managerial ideology, or I would just say poor management. However you really want to shape it, it appears that with the cancellation of the Damian Wayne game, the potential cancellation, or at least let's just say the Superman game that basically failed because of the 2007 financial crisis and all kinds of other things, I just don't think that right now, we're seeing just the delays from what happened in the past few years. I think what this is a long-term effect of what had been happening in the mid 2000s as well. Because around that time, these studios that were under Warner Brothers had already almost perfected how to get out their games in 2 to 3 year cycles, especially if they were building another game from scratch. So I think what we had seen is potentially just management ideology and what Warner Brothers, in terms of their entertainment IPs, wanted to prioritize. Another thing is just a pure abandonment of, in my opinion, what I felt was just some of the more iconic IPs out there. I think they decided that they were going to go ahead and, test out a few things. They were going to go ahead and try out a few new ideas. And so it didn't necessarily work out, in my opinion. I think that there was more that they could have probably been doing, or maybe they could have actually had a little bit of foresight in doing all of that. So these are just some of the things that I, believe so far have really affected things. Now, here is another thing that I believe has, in a sense, strongly affected this release cycle from Rocksteady. And that is the fact that they decided to take their development premise and prowess and move on to an entirely new project or an entirely new paradigm based on either their desire or at the behest of their publishing company. Now, there is a very iconic interview. This interview was done with Stefan Hill. He is I think the managing director or creative director that is at the Rocksteady studio. And in that interview, they asked him and said, this was after Batman Arkham Knight was released. They said, does Rocksteady, envision themselves making another Batman game? This was along the lines of that questioning. And, he said, I don't think that, we want to do any other Batman games. And I think he basically, said in the most nice terms that you could actually put it, that Rocksteady was done with Batman games or, something of that nature. And to me, I thought that that was not necessarily, in my opinion, the best, approach from a business perspective. Now, at that time, I just thought, man, as a fan, it would be nice to get an Arkham game. But little did I know that that would actually affect a lot of things down the road. So take into consideration what Stefan Hill was probably thinking. Maybe the studio wanted to continue to expand their creative capabilities. Maybe they thought if they made another Arkham game, fans were going to be tired or fans were going to grow fatigued with the idea and the concept. And those are very valid points. Imagine making a game, making the 7th version of the game, or, Batman 7, and everybody is like, oh, we're done with Batman games. Oh my goodness. Now you may say, oh, well, who's going to be ever tired of a Batman game? Well, tell that to Assassin's Creed, where they churn them out every so many years. And because Ubisoft has a cycle that can get those games out. And I guess that's another thing we can go ahead and look and say, if you overproduce, you can also cause your fans to, get tired about your game. And I think that's what Rocksteady was actually playing at. And so it goes down to that question of how do developers and how do producers and how do studios ever have to make a decision that they feel is going to serve everybody's, or at least the broader interest, in a sense of a video game that's going to sell and a video game that's going to appeal to a large audience and a video game that's going to make and bring in revenue. And the answer is a very, very complex situation. It's a very complex issue. But at the end of the day, I think that they in Rocksteady Studios should have at least continued with their Batman strategy and then added another team, or at least added a lot more staff or a lot more people that would work on their new and improved projects while they had something for their fans that would not require for them to start everything from ground up. And even when a lot of these publishers call for cancellation of projects, I don't know what it is that they're envisioning, but maybe it's a matter of just resources that they're looking at. But I don't think that that was actually a wise move for them to cancel the Damian Wayne game. In my opinion, I thought that was not really a smart idea, because I believe strongly that that would have really helped to bridge this long gap that we're seeing right now, or at least another Batman game that would have followed, or maybe been created in another paradigm that could have helped bridge the gap that we're seeing in this moment. And even better, a smaller, shorter, and even much more concise game would have worked miracles for all of this, nonsense that we're seeing right now. Because if you think about it, Insomniac is the only studio so far that's willing to take that bet. And it's working out for them, and it seems to have worked out for them. Because if you think about it, they brought out that Spider-Man game. They went ahead and made this 2018 game. It took them a long time to make. And having worked on it for all of that time, they decided that once the PS5s came out, they were going to help, basically launch another Spider-Man story alongside it. And that Spider-Man story was Spider-Man Miles Morales. And the beauty of Miles Morales was it was simple, it was short, it was sweet, and the game was done and gone. When you were done with it, you were excited. You got to play another Spider-Man game. It was new. You at your own pace could actually, in a sense, justify the cost, or at least say, I'm going to wait for it to go on sale, but it still did not take away from the quality of the game that Spider-Man Miles Morales was. And then on top of that, they went ahead and made a remaster. So in doing that, what they did was they created another video game and then improved upon the game that they had already made. And the other video game that they made that was new was a short video game. So thereby reducing the amount of work and time to actually get one title and a remaster of another title out the window. And so bridging the gap between their major releases that they have coming down the road, which are the second Spider-Man game, the Spider-Man 2 that's following their first Spider-Man game, and Wolverine. This is a smart idea, and even Warner Brothers employed this same tactic in the days of the Arkham games. The only thing is, in these days now, or in this particular time frame that we're seeing, we don't think that the people who are running the management, and what I've said in the past, which basically I said, difference in managerial ideology, we don't think that they probably implemented that same strategy. And so where we are right now is as a result of a very, I don't know how to put it, narrow-minded or narrow-visioned strategy. And so if they don't change the strategy at any rate, or they don't adjust or correct for this, I think we're going to put ourselves in a situation where a lot of these games are going to continue to stay in development forever. People who are fans of them eventually will grow tired. I mean, think about it. Some of us in this community may think, I can wait another 10 years for another game. And the truth is, maybe you can. But for some others, the truth is another 10 years is basically grandpa status. This is no longer a joke. Remember Kingdom Hearts? There were people who waited for Kingdom Hearts and became grandparents before the next game came out. And this is a reality. So we don't want to be in that situation. If anything, because of how popular these IPs are, we would like to be in a situation where we're getting more frequent title releases, perhaps every 3.5 or 4 years at the max, and then back to the days when we could get them in 2-year cycles. This is basically my analysis of this entire gaming drought that we're seeing from the Warner Brothers video games so far. I'd love for you to share your own ideas and your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching the video. I appreciate you guys so much, and hopefully we'll talk very soon. Peace out.